Welcome back. This is part two. I hope you enjoy. But back to business talk. What you've owned all these businesses. What's the biggest struggle you've had? Is there a consistent struggle with starting each business? Is there one that's just like a random fluke that's jumped out that you're like, we should talk about that?
It's changed. I mean,
Okay.
because my first real business that I ever had was the dealership.
Mm-hmm.
All the others I made money and whatnot, but I didn't do advertising. It was all word of mouth, people I knew, whatever. So the first real business was my dealership. And I mean, money is always an issue, whether you're starting a restaurant, whether you're starting, some other sort of business. And my advice would be, if you start a business, do not expect to take any money out of it for a year. Don't start a business expecting to support yourself because that's not going to happen. And you should be able to, just in case, because a lot of businesses aren't profitable for 2 or 3 years. Some of them are. Some of them you get lucky and you jump into it and man, you take off. But for the most part, you should have enough savings to pay all of your expenses. And that means your personal expenses,
Mm-hmm.
rent, mortgage, car payment, whatever it is, insurance, healthcare, and your business expenses. You should have enough money to pay everything if you have no income at all for 6 months. Probably a year is really more reasonable, but 6 months at least. So financing is always a part of it. Um, uh, Marketing and advertising people struggle with. That's a huge thing that I see people struggle with right now. And just having an understanding of business. So financing is a big issue. People struggle with marketing and advertising, I think, and just understanding what you're doing. A lot of people think, and this is just an example, a lot of people think that a restaurant's about food, and it's not. A restaurant is a business, and you have to be able to run it like a business. You have to have a budget. You have to be able to control your staff. You have to be able to control your overhead. You have to plan for food orders and problems and plumbing issues or electrical issues or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And people don't realize that. They think it's about the food. And I'm like, no, it is, because you have to have good food to bring people back. But if you own a restaurant, I don't know what your food tastes like. So I'm not going to come to your restaurant to eat your pizza or your tacos or whatever it is that you have, because I've never been. I don't know what your food is like. So I'm not going to come for that reason. I'm going to come because someone told me that they went and it was good, or you have a really good social media marketing, strategy, and you've got good pictures, you've got good descriptions, you've got a website that you use, you've got a, billboard, TV commercial, whatever it is, and I see your food and I'm like, man, that looks good. I'm going to come in to try that. So that's when your food becomes important. But there's so many people that have phenomenal food and they fail in 3 months because they have absolutely no idea about the
It's
business
true.
aspect of it. And then there's people that serve trash food and they take money to the bank in wheelbarrows because they know how to run the business. And that's one of the most important things, is know how to run your business. And I gave that advice to a guy on the food truck page. There's an Evansville food truck page here, that's
Is
run
that
by,
you or is that
no, that's
somebody?
Tom Leggett. That's a buddy
Okay.
of mine, Tom Leggett, and he also runs Franklin Street Bazaar. I'm going to shout out both of them, Tom. So you owe me. I'm going to send you a bill. But he said, well, I want to start my own food truck. And what should I do? And who should I talk to? And blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, oh, talk to the health department, do this, do that. I can help you find a truck. And I said, So the number one thing you should go do is work for somebody else's food truck for 6 months and make sure you like it, one, and make sure that you understand the business aspect of it, how hot they get inside and everything else. And then figure out if you want to own a food truck. I'm like, don't go buy a food truck and spend all this money on equipment and inventory and all that, and then figure out that you don't have any clue what you're doing or you hate it.
I agree. That
And so
makes complete sense.
so anything that you want to do, if you want to be a car salesman, go and ghost a car salesman and kind of be their intern and see what they do, and you learn how to do the paperwork, learn how to do all this stuff. If you want to open a grocery store, go work in a grocery store and understand the inner workings of the business. So that's the number one. That's the number one thing. And then, you know, I guess something else that people would struggle with business wise, it's motivation, and it's employees too. That's a huge issue too. But a lot of people just they don't seem to want to put the time in, and it's like, if you start your own business, you live and eat and breathe that business 24 hours a day. When you're asleep, you dream about how to make the business better and how to market and how to advertise, whatever. It's not something you do from 9 to 5. People that think that you just go to work and you work from 9 to 5, well, there's multiple other hours besides 9 to 5 that you could have a whole other side gig, I mean, and you sleep for 8 hours and you work for 8 hours. Well, what about the rest? What are you doing then? Don't play video games. Don't just sit and drink beer in front of the TV or whatever. Do something. You can have a side gig. You can have a side hustle. You can do a lot of stuff online anymore. And people just don't seem to be motivated. They're just like, well, I worked 8 hours. That's got to be enough. It's like, no, you work until there's nothing else to do. If you need to work 20 hours a day, you work 20 hours a day for a while, and you will be successful because you do what nobody else is willing to do. That's the key is you work harder than anybody else, do the best you can, dedicate yourself to it, and you will be successful because you're way above most other people already.
Everybody's just concerned about entertainment anymore.
Yeah.
You have social media, get addicted to scrolling all day, and people get off and they scroll,
You know
go
what's
to sleep.
entertaining for me? Looking at a big bank account. That's what I like.
Oh, yeah.
Or going and say, hey, I want to go buy a Ferrari, and you go buy a Ferrari because you can. That's to me, that's the pleasure of it. Or doing things like I'm a huge proponent of animal rescues and shelters. So being able to give them money, being able to have free time, because that's one of the things, people. And I was thinking about this morning in the shower, oddly enough, before I was going to come here. I was like, what am I going to talk about? People say, does money make you happy? No, money does not make you happy. Money gives you freedom. That's what it gives you. If you don't have any boss to answer to, you can do whatever you want. If you don't have anybody that you care what they think about you, coworkers or whatever, customers even, you can be your true self. You can say what you want to say. You can enjoy things the way you want to enjoy them. If you want to go take a vacation, you go do it. You don't worry about what anybody thinks. But money's freedom. And so I always tell people, if you want to help an animal rescue, it's fantastic to go there and clean cages and walk animals and talk to animals and spend time with them, market for the rescue, call fosters, send thank you notes out. I mean, whatever they need you to do. But it's also nice to be able to do that and give them $10,000. And so, if your goal is to make money, not just to have money, but to give yourself the freedom to do whatever you want with your life, spend time with your kids. I mean, a lot of people that have gotten into real estate, they're like, I was 40 years old, I retired, and I watched my kids grow up, and he's like, that is worth more to me than anything else. But you can't do that if you live paycheck to paycheck.
It's very true.
And if you don't put the time into your business to be successful, you're not going to do that either. So money shouldn't be your goal, but money is what gives you freedom and gives you the ability to do anything that you want to do and to help whoever you want to help. If there's a homeless person on the street, it's nice for you to give them a hamburger, but if you can also help them get a place to live and a car and a job and whatever, that helps them even more. I'm not saying the smallest action doesn't make a difference, because it does. But if that's all you can do, think about how much more you could do for people if you had more.
You're saying dream big.
Resources. Yeah, absolutely.
Why stop so small? Yeah.
Yeah, no, don't say, oh, I've got $1 million now, that's enough. No, man, what was 10? If one's good, 10's better, 5's better, 2 is better, whatever it is. Don't ever stop. And the people who love what they do and have a passion for it, money follows. If you just go and work for money, you're not going to get money, because you're trying the wrong thing, and your attitude and your work ethic and the amount of time that you are willing to put into it aren't going to be there. If you do it because you love it, money's going to come because you're doing all the right things to be successful. That's the difference. And so, my advice to everybody is to do what you love and allow yourself the freedom to not have to work when you're older, because that's the mistake I see a lot of people make. They're in their 20s, they want to go out drinking, they want to buy a bunch of clothes, they want to do this, do that. I'm like, no, live like you are broke until you're 30. And invest your money and make, like I said, buy and flip houses. I mean, if you can make a couple $100,000 every time you flip a house, if you do that 5 times, you got a lot of money. You got $1 million, in cash. And so Do things like that so that when you're 30, you don't have to work for anybody else. You don't have to work a full-time job. You don't have to do all these things. And by the time you're 40, you don't have to do anything. You've got money that you're basically don't work for money, make money work for you.
Are you a fan of Dave Ramsey?
I'm not.
You're not.
Here's why.
Would you on a
That's
scale
that's
of
a
one
really
to
good
10,
question.
because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I don't like Dave Ramsey," and like, "Well, I like these aspects, but not these others," and they just have more of an opinion. And
Um, I am not a fan of Dave Ramsey for the type of person that I am. Dave Ramsey has great advice. I will say that he has very good advice. He's kind of out of touch with some things. I think a lot of times, some of the things that I hear him say, because you see the shorts on Facebook and whatever. But for the average person, if you don't ever want to own your own business, you always want to work for somebody else, and if you have a credit card and you can't control your spending, if you just go up and max it out and you make the minimum payment, Dave Ramsey's advice is phenomenal. I know a friend of mine that followed it. He's got three, 2 or 3 kids, 3 kids, and married, and they followed it. And he can go pay cash for a Harley every other year if he wants to. Their
that's
house
really
is paid
nice.
for, whatever. But for the person who wants to be in business, his advice is not good because he doesn't like debt. He doesn't like credit cards. He doesn't like risk. And that's exactly how you make money. There is no safe option to make money. You're not
Is
going to do
he
anything that's not risky.
is he against all risk, or is it just debt? And also, yeah, I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, see, I what I don't like about it is he doesn't like credit cards.
Hmm.
And so here's an example. News for you. It costs us X amount of money to print the magazine every month, and it's in the thousands. I mean, it's not cheap.
Oh, of course. I mean,
So,
paper, ink.
but I have a credit card that pays me 2%. Well, my printer charges me 3% to print the magazine. So it only costs me 1%, which is tax deductible, by the way. So it goes against my income, but I get 2% back of the three. And that ends up being, every couple of months, it's near $1,000. So,
That's nice.
when you get
I've
that kind of money back, a credit card makes absolute sense because I pay it off. I don't let the balance get high. I don't just pay interest on it. I pay it off. And if you don't, just like with him, talking about real estate, if he wants people to go with a regular job, you're making $50,000, $60,000 a year. If he wants you to pay cash for a property every time you buy it, you're going to be able to buy a property once every 10 years. And that's not how you grow your portfolio, and it's not how you get money. You have to buy multiple properties at once. If you own one rental property, you're not even going to cover your own expenses. You have to have multiple. And then you get money. But to do that, you've got to use the bank's money. You have to get loans and you have to have some debt, but it's smart debt. Because if you have a property that's paying you, $1,500 a month and your bank loan is 600, well, how does that not make sense? I mean, you're cash flowing like crazy every month, but you have to have that debt. But guess what? The interest on the debt is tax deductible. And so you don't want to get over your head to where if one of the bank says, "Hey, you need to pay this loan off," that you can't do it. But debt, there is good debt and there is bad debt, and there is nothing at all wrong with credit cards if you can control yourself.
heard people that are big Dave Ramsey fans who have a credit card and do what you're saying,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
get their money back.
yeah.
But they're also like, but we don't recommend someone who just got married and you don't have a working budget relationship
No, no,
and you
no,
have no discipline. I'd say, oh,
no.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to debt, but
Oh, I loved it because I like using the bank's money. It literally like, the very first property I ever bought. It was pretty inexpensive, but you could live in it. And see, people don't realize that. They're like, "Oh, you can't buy a house for $35,000." Yes, you can. You can buy them all day long. You can buy houses for $10,000. They need work.
lots of
But
work.
but here's the thing: I paid cash. The very first place I bought, I paid cash. I went and improved it, and the bank came and said, "Hey, this place is worth 130,000, basically $100,000 more than I paid for it. I improved it just by making it
Wow.
nicer, doing the floors, new windows, whatever." Well, like I said, if the bank says your property, just for ease of numbers, is worth 100 grand, you can go borrow against it and get $75,000 cash.
Interesting.
So I got all of my money back. The house was free. I own the house and have nothing invested in it. I got all my money back, and the rent pays the bank note. The rent pays the mortgage, the rent pays the property tax, and the rent pays the insurance. I have a free property that cash flows money every month to me. Why would you not do that? Why would you not do that 5 times? And so that's the thing, is that Dave Ramsey has great advice for people who can't control their spending and who don't have a lot of income. Um, but that's the other, conversation to have, is that how much do you want to work? How much do you want to put into it? Because you can go, if you can make $250 a week extra, 12 grand a year. $12,000 a year would easily pay for your house, your mortgage, or your rent. It would pay for your car. It would pay for your health insurance. So you can make $250. I used to go to, just for something to do. I used to buy storage units, and I used to buy jewelry and everything. I wanted to learn more about jewelry, and I was like, well, the way to do that is to go buy jewelry and to have to do something with it. I got to sell this to get my money back. I have to learn about it. And again, it's marketing and advertising online. And I would buy stuff that was everything I bought was under $300. Every single thing I bought except one bracelet that I paid too much for, I would double or triple my money. So I could buy something for $200 and sell it from 4 to 6. I could buy something for $35 and sell it for 150 every single time. And it's like, why can't somebody do that? Why can't somebody take $100 and buy a pair of tennis shoes and flip them online, or go to the Goodwill and buy some stuff that's got some value and sell it online? Even if you have kids, you can do this at 10 o'clock at night after they go to bed. You can go to yard sales on the weekend and buy stuff that you sell during the week at night when your kids are in bed, when you're off work.
People
whatever.
can definitely do it.
$250 a week is $12,000 a year. If you made an extra 12 grand a year, you could go buy a rental property. You could do FHA, and say, hey, I've got $25,000 cash I've saved for 2 years. I got 25 grand. I'm going to put a quarter down. I'm going to buy $100,000 property, or I'm going to buy 4 $25,000 properties. And the bank wants a quarter down. You can buy 4 properties for $25,000. You improve them, you rent them out, and they pay for themselves. And it's like, why wouldn't you do that? So yeah, I mean, it's a little more complicated. I mean, that's a simplified version of it. But no, debt is good. Certain debt's good. Don't go and buy something. If you go and put gasoline and food on your credit card, do it for the points, do it for the miles or whatever. If you go buy, something that you're going to pay off in 30 days, sure. If you don't buy anything you can't afford to pay cash for. So don't go buy a $4,000 TV if you don't have $4,000, because then you're going to start paying interest on it, and it's 20% or even higher than that. So pay your credit card off every month, but use it, because you can get free airline tickets. I've got over 1 million points with Marriott. I can call any Marriott in the world and stay there for free. I can go to Paris and stay in a Marriott for nothing. One year I called Marriott in downtown Louisville, and I got a room for the Kentucky Derby 3 days before the Kentucky Derby, which, if you know how popular that is, they sell out months in advance. But I'm a good enough customer with Marriott, and I had the points. They're like, yeah, we've got a room.
That's awesome.
So you can use that to benefit yourself. And then when I, put the magazine on my credit card, I get cash back. So, so yes, it's costing me a percentage point, but so what? That's nothing. That is nothing at all. It's $100. So
you're owning the system, it sounds like.
Yeah. So, but you have to be smart with it. And like I said, you can't just go and spend a bunch of money and get in debt because you want to buy something. Here's the thing: if you want to go buy a Ferrari, let's just say, don't go pay cash for the Ferrari. Go buy something that makes you money to pay for that Ferrari. So if you have a rental property, just as an example, I had one property where one of my tenants bought my truck. My truck was I've never put a dime into buying my truck. One of my tenants in a duplex paid everything that it cost to buy that truck. So, it's like, if you want to go buy something, don't go buy a depreciating asset with the money. Go buy something that generates income for you passively, and then you go buy the truck, or then you go buy the Ferrari, or whatever it is that you want. Take the vacation. But if you have $100,000, or like I said, even 25, and you go buy these properties, you always have that money. That money that you put into those properties is always there. If you go buy a $100,000 car and in 5 years it's worth $25,000, you lost $75,000.
It's true. It's not a good investment.
No, but the properties, the money you put in, the 100 that you put in, is always there. They appreciate. They bring you income every month, and you can use that to go buy the car, and it doesn't matter if it depreciates or not because it's free. And if you put it in your company name, it's a write-off. You write everything off. So if you're smart with your money, that's going to get you a lot farther than just making a lot of money and blowing it. Because I know people that make $1 million a year and they live month to month.
I believe it.
I mean, and then
I've heard the horror
debt.
stories.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it's
what are you
not good.
doing? It's like with that kind of income, you could go buy, I mean, like I said, you could go buy multiple properties every single year and you could be getting $20,000 a month in income. Well, if you got 20 grand coming in a month or even 10, there's a lot of people that could live on that. Could you live on eight, nine, $10,000 a month?
Oh yeah, I mean, who couldn't?
And
Yeah.
and you could still work your other job, you could do other things, whatever. But you have to be smart. So that's kind of the long answer to your question, is that yes, for some people, Dave Ramsey is excellent advice. For people who want to do, a lot of entrepreneurial things, it's not. Because you'll never be able to get where you need to be by following his advice, because it'll take you decades to do what you want to do, and you need to be able to do that in 10 years or less.
Wow.
So
yeah, it was a good answer.
yes, I mean but that's a good question. I've talked to Dave about Dave Ramsey with people before, but not like in that sense, because I just be like, yeah, it's bad advice, don't follow it. Or if I know that they get $1,000 limit on their card, they're in debt $1,005, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Listen to Dave Ramsey. It's like, yes, it's good advice. So it depends, but
Well, I think we're kind of coming close to our time.
we're way over.
We're,
our show.
we're way over, but we told me, so we're probably going to cut it up into two, and we're at that point.
So that's
So,
fine.
fun question. What's your favorite movie? We ask
Oh
everybody
my
every
gosh,
week.
see, that's tough too, man, because it's like your favorite restaurant, your favorite this.
You
or that.
can name off
And
five,
yeah, I thought about that. I really like anything that is like biographical or
Okay.
autobiographical. So I mean, like movies about people's lives. I always enjoy. I love mob movies, especially from
doesn't?
like the 80s and 90s,
Mhm.
whatever. So I mean, like, The Irishman was one of the recent
I've
ones that
not
was
watched The
really, really
Irishman.
good. I always go, if there's any movies about racing, about Formula One, or about anything like that, I
Brad
go
Pitt,
watch
that's
it.
coming out.
Yeah, that's supposed to be pretty cool with who else is in that? Brad Pitt and somebody else.
I don't remember.
And the whole thing's about Formula One, but there was a good movie about Ayrton Senna also. And then I like old westerns. Like, I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan, so pretty much anything that Clint Eastwood does, I've always liked. But I love his old spaghetti westerns that they filmed in Italy, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and For a Few Dollars More. And there's a couple of others that he did. But I'm a big fan of those. So it's one of the that just kind of the genre, I guess. And like I said, I love The Godfather, I love Carlito's Way, I love A Bronx Tale, just stuff like that. I like those old, mob movies, because again, it's based in fact, it's based in reality. Those are stories about people that actually existed and things that actually happened. So I guess that kind of intrigues me
That's
a
really
little
cool.
bit. So
Yeah, we had a variety of answers on
yeah,
the show. With
yeah, I can
everyone's got,
imagine.
yeah.
But like a favorite movie, I don't even know if I could pick it. I mean, Shawshank Redemption is a really good movie. That's always somebody's answer. But like I said, I'm a big dog person, and A Dog's Life, which the dog was, or no, there's another one too. A Dog's Life and A Dog's Purpose. And one of the movies was the dog was named Enzo after Enzo Ferrari, and his owner was a racing driver. And throughout the movie, he ended up driving for a Ferrari. But this dog was with him like his entire life, and I think his wife ends up passing away from cancer, and the dog helps him through that and all that. But any kind of movie with animals in it, I'm kind of a sucker for that too. So
Nice.
it's one of those things.
That's awesome. Well, as we wrap up here, I mean, you support so many local businesses, and our question is, if you could only pick one local business, like, who needs it? And no one gives one; they always give like five.
Yeah, I mean that's tough, because
We're putting you in a tough situation. You
with
have to shout out just
well
one.
with my background, it's like restaurants. I go to restaurants in my head because that's what I really know, and I know so many restaurant owners. And anything else, it's like, well, do you talk about pool companies or car dealerships, or whatever? But I mean, my answer would be local. Just support local. I'm a big proponent of that. Chains do hire local people, but a lot of the times the money leaves town. They don't
Mhm.
support Little League. They don't live here. The owners, they don't have, they don't go and buy cars, at Kenny Kent or Chevrolet or wherever. Um, And so I would say support local. But I'm a big fan of, ethnic restaurants. I love Japanese food. I
Okay.
love Vietnamese food. I love, Cuban food and Chinese, even Szechuan. And so I think some of those places get overlooked because everybody's like, well, there's like 50 Mexican restaurants in town. And, there's some really, really good, authentic Mexican restaurants in town. But I would say support the places that don't get thought about very often. Miranda's on Washington, it's a Venezuelan restaurant. Some of the super authentic Mexican places. I love House of Como, and it's been around forever. Support places like Deerhead. I mean, yeah, there's Little
Yeah.
Caesars out there, there's Pizza Hut, whatever. This pizza's better, and it's a local owner. It's been around for decades.
And you can't even get Little Caesars pizza for $5
Oh
anymore.
no,
So
no, and stuff,
it
no
was
stuff.
cool, and now it's done. It's
No,
out the
it's
window.
crazy. And see, and I've got a story too where I went to. I know this is going to be really long, but I've got a story too where I was at Barnes and Noble a couple of years ago at Christmas time, and I was buying some presents for people. There was a homeless guy outside, and I had my dog with me. My dog goes like pretty much wherever I go. I'm surprised he's not here today because we usually sit on the patio. But I was, I went and said hi to the guy, and he like, oh, that's a cute dog, whatever. And I went and got in my truck, and I was like, you know what? I need to go see if this guy needs anything. So I went back and said, hey, can I get you something? Can you need shoes, a blanket, whatever? And he's like, well, I could do some food. So I went across the street to McDonald's. It was on Lincoln Avenue and Green River Road. And I got him like whatever meal he wanted and a couple extra hamburgers. It was like $23 just at McDonald's, and I'm like, the food's not all that fantastic or quality. It's, it's fast food, it's whatever. And I think about these places like Stockwell Inn that has a lunch. You can go get a salad and a huge plate of spaghetti or a pork chop or whatever for less than $10. And it's like, why are you buying, McDonald's? I did it because it was convenient and it was right there, and I
Of
wasn't going to
course.
go wait, for some place to cook him a meal for 30 minutes. But and that's actually what he asked for anyway. He's like, I'll eat some McDonald's. But it's like if you support some of these local places, you can get a great meal for way less than fast food, and you're supporting a local owner. So I would say pick that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Vietnamese cuisine. I like the Szechuan Chinese restaurant off Green River Road. I love the Deerhead. I like the Slice, the pizza. Um, I mean, there's a ton of them. The name Prime Time. David Parker owns Prime Time. That's a
Mhm.
really, really good place to go. He's got good prime rib. He's got good sandwiches. Like I said, I hate naming places because I leave so many out. But like even man, I'm a big fan of like Smitty's.
Oh yeah.
I mean, great Italian food. A Gerst House is great
Great
German food.
meatballs.
My buddy owns Jacob's Pub, and they brought the Deleghi menu back, and that's like one of my favorite menus in town was Deleghi's and House of Como and a couple of others. But I mean, there's just so many great places that you can support. I would say support local. Find your favorite and go support them. And part of what I do with this is Taste of Evansville, and so I write about places. This one happens to be on Jacob's Pub, but I write about places that people may not know about. Like Miranda's was one of mine. And when I posted that online, people are like, I never knew that place existed. I drive by it every day. And they started to go there and they're like, man, the tacos are great. This is great. That's great. And that's my point. I want to support local business and local restaurants and, help them get the exposure. And so that's why I do stuff like this. And if you find the new favorite place because of it, that's exactly the point, so that's kind of like my whole goal. And like I said, we could get into the food page and how that's changed, but that's probably an entirely another episode.
It will
So
be. We'll have you back on part two. Well,
yeah.
maybe it'll be part three if we cut this into
Yeah.
two.
So anyway, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on and
Yeah, thanks for
the
coming.
time and everything else.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. As you guys know, like, comment, subscribe, and watch another
Support
video right here.
local. Yeah. So
Support
right,
local all the
support
way.
local, watch his videos, grow his page.
That's right. We want to help local people.
That's right.
We'll see you guys next week.
That works.
Perfect.